Hey Rush Nation, welcome to the 5-Yard IDP pod with me, Nath Davis. Today we'll be reviewing week 11 and getting you ready for week 12. Apologies for missing a week last week, but I've had to deal with some ongoing sort of family issues, which have been a bit of a nightmare, and I've had to concentrate on them. Fantasy for me is a quite a nice time out from it all. So it's actually helping me at this moment in time. So yeah. Anyway, enough about that. As you, Mr. Veal, you all right, buddy?
I'm good. It's nice to be back on the air. Nice to see you. It's just a shame our little hiatus sort of coincided with Miami going on a bit of a three game run,
Yeah.
but, especially that Ravens game. But sadly, I don't get to talk about that this week. So there you go. What can you do?
Happy days.
Whereas you do get to wax lyrical about your Vikings. But anyway, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
so,
get to that. It's not. Yeah, I haven't gone too mad. Like I said. So I've had a bit of a drama, put it that way, from a family side of things. So my notes are a little bit. I've watched all the games, but I haven't, like, often I watch them again and I do this and I do that, but I have not had the time. But I have got some notes and I have got some things, and I've definitely got some things to say about the craziness that is this season. And I can't believe that we chose at the start of this, when we started doing this pod, to predict the winners. I mean, fuck, it's been absolutely. I mean, seriously, I mean, it's just stupid. If you predict a team to win, or the fact that they should win this year, they're probably not going to win the next game. I think that's the way to bet at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I mean, coupled with that, I mean, I've been reading up and listening to, and we spoke about this in the summer, actually, in the off season, about the fact that we would have fans back in and how the home games really weren't what we expected last year. Well, it's COVID, it's all over the shop. But the stats this season for home games are virtually identical. It doesn't seem to matter. You know, I've picked games, we both have, where you go, home field advantage, especially, and no, doesn't matter.
no,
Really doesn't. It's just absolutely batshit. So,
and the week to week, expecting a team to. I mean, I've got a couple of picks, especially later on in my selections, that I'm gonna say what happened last week, and then I'm just gonna pick the opposite, because I'm just gonna go for it, because I think maybe that's what maybe some people and some teams are sort of like overthinking what happened, what happened previously. But anyway,
in our defense, we've got an awful lot of the predictions for the games totally wrong, but then so's everyone else. But actually, some of the fantasy predictions have been on the money, sort of week to week. So and that's kind of what we're here for, really. So it's
IDP wise, it's been quite consistent from a lot of the big players. To be fair, if you have a look, a lot of the big names are still at the top of the tree, and even the players that weren't at the top of the tree are making their way up. The Devin Whites are making, he's making a late push for it and stuff like that. But anyway, right.
Yeah.
This pod and all the other pods that the 5-Yard family do are sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped are the market leader in men's below the waist grooming, and they have just released their Lawnmower 4.0, which is an absolutely fantastic bit of kit. One of the best things about it is the skin safe technology, so you get no nicks on your bits, and you can receive 20% off with the code 5YARD at manscaped.com. It really is a game changer in that area, and you are missing out if you do not have one. As I said, 20% off with the code 5YARD at manscaped.com. And there's also free worldwide shipping, so sort yourself out and get involved. Koki. So what we're going to do is slightly different to what we've done previous weeks. We're going to concentrate on 5 games, mainly because I haven't had the time to review all of the games. So, but 5 games we're going to go for each. So let's get onto it. And we're on to the Thanksgiving Thursday games. And I am first up, and I'm going to skip. I'm going to choose to skip my first selected matchup, which is Chicago at Detroit. Just on that, I'm skipping it because most of the defensive players are really not relevant, apart from your obvious, your MVP candidate, Roquan Smith. He is lights out at this moment in time, but pretty much the rest of it, yeah, stay away from it. Even though the matchup's particularly quite good for Chicago, again, you don't know what you're going to get. You really don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what Detroit you're going to get neither. So yeah, we're skipping it. Bren, over to you, mate. Who you got?
Yeah. So first of the Thanksgiving games, we're going to the Raiders at the Cowboys. So now the Raiders defense played well for me in the defeat to the Bengals on Sunday, and were let down by another sloppy offensive performance. Now I know the Raiders 5-5, bit erratic on a 3-game losing streak, but against this Cowboys offense, I think I can make a good case. First off, the O-line for Dallas was awful on Sunday. That loss to the Chiefs, Dak was sacked 3.5 times. Now, a big factor in that for the poor sort of protection by the Cowboys has been the injury to left tackle Tyron Smith. He's been back and forth with his ankle injury. I think they maybe tried to rush him back in. I don't know. But even if he starts Thursday, and this is a short week for a lot of teams, I can't see him being 100%. So that would be a concern. That's if he starts. So straight away, I'm looking at the likes of Max Crosby to add to his 5 sacks on the season. But one of my picks would definitely be Yannick Ngakoue. He's picked up 7 sacks so far this season, including another one on Sunday against the Bengals and a forced fumble. And I was quite surprised, actually, especially if you're in one of the deeper leagues, to find him on at least one waiver wire. He's actually on one of the waivers in our IDP league. Also, Dallas will be missing Amari Cooper and possibly missing CeeDee Lamb, depending on Sundays. He left halfway through the game on Sunday with concussion, so depending on what the protocol dictates with that. So you're likely to see a lot more short throws over the middle for me from Dak. I think Dak will lean on tight end Dalton Schultz, which we saw evidence of him doing a bit already against the Chiefs.
Yep.
So the linebackers have got to be in play in this game for the Raiders. Denzel Perryman had 30.5 points on Sunday, taking his season. He also took his season tackle count to 114. Corey Littleton, I would expect to have decent points return this season. Both those LBs being busy. In the secondary, you've got to start, for me, safety Jonathan Abram, because as I said, I don't see Dak. It could kind of hinge on CD coming back, which he may well do. But I don't see him really going down the field, looking long down the field too much if the offense remains as banged up as it is at the moment, and he hasn't got his first sort of 2 choice weapons there. So yeah, you might want to just keep an eye on that before Thursday. But Abram, for me, he does step up, as we said before, into the box, get amongst it. His tackle numbers speak for themselves. 84 on the season, and currently is the second highest sort of safety in the league in terms of tackle numbers. Dallas, on the other hand, I think will be hoping the Raiders' offense are as poor as they were for the first 3 quarters on Sunday, and there's a good chance they could be. Their offense has not gone over 20 points since they beat the Eagles back at the tail end of October. My concern with Dallas this week, outside of Micah Parsons, who's having a monster season and still racked up 30 points in a poor Cowboys performance for me, it could go one of 2 ways. This is why it's a bit tricky IDP wise for the Cowboys for me this week. They could really go out there and beat up on this misfiring Raiders offense, assuming it plays below par, or they don't have to do much at all, as the Raiders repeat exactly what they did on Sunday for 3 quarters, which was field goal, punt, halftime, punt. That was it. So they didn't get going until the 4th quarter. And by then, it's just too late. I've got a sneaky feeling it could be the latter. So I don't know just how busy some of those Dallas sort of fringe IDP players could be. So for that reason, outside of Parsons, I'd be inclined to bench any Dallas players that you're not 100%. Even Diggs, actually, for me at the moment. I know he's sort of, everyone's favourite corner at the moment. He started this, but he's been quiet since that week 7 bye, if you look at his fantasy points. So sum the game up for me. Dallas win I think because the Raiders' offense, as good as Raiders' defense has been in patches, Dallas win because the Raiders' offense is a bit out of sorts at the moment. But IDP wise, I think the Raiders value, the Raiders players a better value in fantasy this week. So that's so I'd go with the IDP prediction, not the game prediction, as we've said.
Yeah,
so,
I've kind of got exactly the same things on that. Yeah, I think you're right on the Raiders being the defense pick. Probably, I expect Dallas to be on the field offensively a lot more. Like you said, the 3-and-out kind of situation that Vegas just can't get it going. That's what
they're doing the
really
defensive work for them week after week at the moment.
Mm.
And I think that the whole Ruggs thing has, they look like a team that after the Gruden thing, they were playing angry and they had a really good result. But then, they just seem all out of sorts at the moment for me. So there you go.
Right. So what am I on? I've got the Bills at the Saints. So again, going over to what we mentioned earlier about it being inconsistent teams, not not playing like they possibly should do. I'm going to go on this one against it. I fancy the Saints here. I fancy the Saints against this Bills team because I've got a feeling that, that performance by the Bills at the weekend was, I'll go as far as say horrendous. I didn't understand Jonathan Taylor just absolutely carved, and he didn't have to do. It felt like he didn't have to do a lot to really break through. I know he's an elite running back, but oh my life, sometimes it was an identical play after identical play, and I just felt for the Bills. I mean, I saw Meek Hyde in the press conference after, and he looked embarrassed about the whole situation, and it was that feeling of like. It was like men against boys kind of thing. Jonathan Taylor was just silly, really. Anyway, but like after saying that, I feel that the Saints can win it. I'm now looking at. There's a lot of talk about the fitness of Kamara. He missed last week, and now they're saying that Ingram may miss. If that is the case, then you've got to go Bills, because if there is no run game, then that's the one thing that the Bills can't seem to properly master at this moment, how to stop it. So if the Saints don't have one, then you've got to go Bills. But I do think there's maybe a little bit of hot air with it. I just got a feeling that you might see even both of them. I just got a feeling that the Saints are play. I don't know. Just don't know. It doesn't add up, some of it, what they've said. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see if they turn up or not, those two running backs. The Saints lost to the Eagles in week 11. But for me, that whole performance by the Eagles O-line was something of absolute beauty. I mean, they had a great game. The Eagles, the Eagles, the run game was phenomenal, and it was mainly because they had so much protection up front. And that really, the Saints just could not stop it. But it's a very different game this one's going to be. So I feel that the Saints will come back angry, and against the Bills, who are trying to come off that week. I don't like the matchup for the Bills, not at all. The Saints, talking about IDP players, the Saints linebackers, they're a bit inconsistent at this moment in time. Demario Davis had a quiet week in week 11, which was surprising considering how the game went. You'd have expected him to actually rack up some points, but it just didn't happen. And it's difficult to predict if they bounce back, the linebacker core against Buffalo, because of Buffalo's inconsistency, how they're going to play the game as well. Linebackers, I wouldn't go from the Saints side of things, but up front, I would have a little look at Marcus Davenport. He's had 3 great weeks in a row. He had 1.5 sacks last week against Jalen Hurts, a very mobile QB, and for me, he's definitely a top pickup. Also, Cam Jordan also scored well alongside him. And I'm looking at Marcus Williams at DB. He had decent tackle numbers and a great week 11. For the Bills D, I do like the linebacker core, like I always do, but I do like it in this matchup because I do think that it's going to be run from the Saints. That well, why wouldn't you after watching what Jonathan Taylor did? So yeah, I would expect them to do okay, the linebacker core. So yeah, so my picks are Davenport from the Saints. I'm going for, and I'm gonna go Matt Milano as the top point scorer from the Bills for this week. I'm not really interested in the secondary for the Bills because it's just this consistency side of things. I don't quite know what the Saints will do. And how they'll play the game. I don't know whether they're going to air it out or whether they're going to. Why would you? Like I said, I would run the hell out of the ball. So therefore, secondary wise, maybe go elsewhere. So yeah, Marcus Davenport from the Saints and Matt Milano would be my pickups for this week.
Yeah, I'd side with the Saints in terms of the game result. Yeah, the Bills just don't know. It is typically one of those games that could go either way. You look at it and you think, yeah, the Bills have really got to get their act together and get back on track, especially now they've been overtaken by the Pats. So I don't want to see the wheels come off the Bills because it does mean that New England are now top of the division, which, let's face it, no Miami fan's going to stomach that very well. But yeah, the Saints is still a top run defense. And they seem to be. I know they've struggled a bit since the Jameis sort of injury, but Saints but it's a toss of a coin game, really. I think could go either way. Spot on. Right, moving on to what have I got next Sunday game? So, Steelers at the Bengals. I like this one. Big AFC North game. Excuse me. Yeah, big AFC North game. Kind of must win for both, really. Bengals off the back of a pretty comfortable Raiders win, as we've already touched on with the Raiders. Against the Steelers, I like the Bengals in all three phases defensively this week, primarily because of the way the Steelers offense now sets up. It's not all sort of Big Ben. So they're having to do things differently. The DLs and linebackers are in play for me. Primarily, well, for one reason, they're going to try and get to the big walk-in wardrobe in the number 7 jersey, but also because of the way they are starting to use Najee Harris, developing more of a ground game. They're also using them a lot on sort of short pass pickup yardages, check downs, short throws over the middle. And another thing I think everyone's picked up on, Big Ben does seem to be going over the middle quite a bit more to tight end Pat Freiermouth. Yep. So again, there could be a lot going on in and around that sort of front 7 for the Bengals. But the DBs are in with a shout as well. I feel that's why I say, I like all 3 sections of this Bengals defense this week. I've got to stop saying Bungles. It's only to wind my daughter up. Because sooner or later, Ben is going to go downfield looking for Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. The DBs are fairly easy. Jesse Bates and Von Bell. I know their numbers on Sunday were low, but as I've said, the Bengals defense didn't have to work especially hard against the Raiders. They should have a busier day at the office for me this weekend. Linebacker-wise, Logan Wilson, again, quiet Sunday, but he's top of the Bengals tackle chart with 83 on the season. One to pick up if you are a bit short at linebacker this week. Again, I would argue probably in a larger league, to be fair, for me would be Jermaine Pratt, arguably. Again, quite a Sunday, but he's posted double figures in at least 50% of his games this season. He's a little bit hit and miss. You're not guaranteed, but again, I could see the linebackers being busy in this game. DL, Sam Hubbard is fairly straightforward, 23.5 points on Sunday, including another sack. And Trey Hendrickson. If I had to pick one of the 3 areas for the Bengals this week to really highlight, the DLs would probably be it. I mean, Hubbard and Hendrickson have got 50.5 sacks between them so far this season. Hendrickson's sort of fairly well in the lead with 9.5. And you couple that with Big Ben being sacked 21 times off 9 games this season, and I'd say you could make a case for starting either of those two, and there's a good chance you get at least one sack out of it. More likely to be Trey Hendrickson, looking at the stats, but then Hubbard's tackle numbers on the season are double what Hendrickson's are. So there are upsides to both of those players, really, in terms of points. Steelers nearly battled back and beat the Chargers on Sunday night or Monday morning in what was a bonkers 41-point fourth quarter. It's not the first time we've seen some mad fourth quarters this season. And I think the general consensus is, I don't think too many people would argue this, if they had fit TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick, then they probably see that game out. Williams doesn't, they don't get that long, what was it, 53-yard pass to Mike Williams. I think Fitzpatrick's affording you better coverage there, and maybe it happens, but it's less likely for me. Minkah will be back after COVID protocol, so I think, you've got to be looking at starting him if you've got him this week. I know the Bengals got the ground game going with Joe Mixon on Sunday, but Burrows, I think they'll look at what Herbert did, and that they'll be looking to keep that Jamar Chase Burrows sort of thing going at some point in the game. The big news could be TJ Watt back from this hip injury. Now the MRI shows that there was no structural sort of damage, nothing sort of serious, but it could be a late call. So, but in this game against the Bengals, both needing to win it, I think if TJ Watt is anywhere near fit, he plays. It's that simple for me.
He's playing.
So I assume he's playing. Nate's got the inside track, obviously. Been on the phone to the Pittsburgh's front office.
Well, I haven't got as you can see in Hard Knockers, our home league, I've still got Joey Bosa on my bench. I'm not letting him go. I'm not dropping him until the final minute. Plug that gap.
So elsewhere for the Steelers, business as usual. I know I get a bit repetitive covering the Steelers. Cam Hayward's DL is a pretty safe bet in this game. Alex Highsmith at linebacker is coming off the back of 46 points in the last 2 weeks. Some of you might be having a look at corner Cam Sutton. He had a big day on Sunday with 26.5 points. I wouldn't really, to be honest. It's the first time he's posted double figures since week 1, so don't get too excited by that. I don't see him going anywhere near that again. It's a flash in the pan score, so I'd swerve that by a long shot. So summing the game up, not assuming Nath is now guaranteed that TJ Watt's starting. So based on Watt and Fitzpatrick, being back, I like the Steelers in this one, especially after the way they fought back as they did against the Chargers. I think they can do it on both sides of the ball. It's just a question of putting it all together, playing some complementary football. The Bengals are back on track with a win, but prior to the bye, bear in mind, they lost to the Browns, who only just beat the Lions on Sunday. They're a bit of a mess. And before that, they beat the Jets. Well, even Miami managed to beat the Jets on Sunday. So still a lot of room for improvement. The Bengals could go one way or the other. I think the Steelers are more consistent at the moment. So make of that what you will.
Yeah, I got Pittsburgh to win it. I have got them coming back. Interesting what you said about Hubbard and Hendrickson. That is really a good point to make when people are building their rosters. And if you are looking for tackle floor side of things, there's a DL that puts up good tackle numbers in Hubbard. But on the big play side of things, Hendrickson's probably your man. So it depends on which way you're going. So Hendrickson, you pick him on matchup. Hubbard, if you're looking at tackle floor. That's a great example, Bren. Right. So where am I? I'm skipping again because I've got the Jets at the Texans. I'm going to skip that one. A bit harsh probably on the Texans at this moment in time, but I would say it's just the fact that it's a little bit inconsistent, even though they racked up defensively, they racked up some massive points in week 11. But I think it was, Mr. Tannehill having an absolute shocker of the day. The weather was atrocious. It was a defensive pick dream. And it was just getting silly. But Zach Cunningham is back scoring well. So Kirks is on IR. Gruger Hill is also scoring some big points. So linebacker wise, Houston are not a bad target to have a little gander at. But like I said, just those big points wise, I wouldn't pay too much of attention to some of those big scores, because that was a one-off against Mr. Tannehill and the weather. So that's it. I'm skipping that one. So kind of skipping it. I did talk a bit about it, but there you go, Bren. So who are you on now?
I'm going. Yeah, no. I'm picking this one up. I'm going with the Bucks and the Colts, and I'll explain why. Right. I'm really done with the Bucks and IDP. I really am. I should have listened to my own advice, and regular listeners will bear this out. I have said it time and time again, but I don't bloody listen to myself. They're a good team defense, and they proved that again on Monday night as they made Daniel Jones scamper around all over the shop, looking a bit of a pillock. He had nowhere to go. But they don't, for me, they still don't have ID players that you can consistently count on week in, week out. I've said it before, they all get involved. The points are shared around. I mean, you've touched on Devin White. Okay, he top scored this week, but it was only 13.5 points. And they're all there or thereabouts. They'd get, there's 11 here and 12 there and 9.5 there. And you go, oh, for God's sake. And okay, he had a monster week 10 with 49.5 points. Yes, very good. But that was a flash in the pan. Go back through his numbers. Okay, he is their tackle leader this season on 87. And he and Levante David, he's 64 tackles on the season. They're the only two I would arguably make a case for in this Bucs defense at this moment in time. Possibly, if you wanted to, yes, you could start them in this matchup, because they will go out there and try and do a better job than the Bills did of, stopping Jonathan Taylor. I guess the real reason I'm pissed off with the Bucs D at the moment is by Monday, all I needed was Shaq Barrett and Antoine Winfield to stumble their way into double figures for a very, very rare win in our home league. I'm doing fine in IDP, but our home league, having a mare. They managed 9 between them. Now, I know it's not IDP scoring, but it's just indicative of the number of times this season I have stacked Bucs players in what I thought was a pretty nailed-on matchup against a pretty piss-poor Giants team. And no, they let me down again. So one of the reasons for me choosing this game is to implore our dear listeners to just learn from my mistakes, please. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, good team defense, but in IDP, they keep upsetting me. I've had my heart broken too many times this season, and quite frankly, I need a bit of a trial separation. And for me, this Colts matchup just feels like the nice time in the season for me and the Bucs defense to call it what it is and say, look, we're on a break for a little while. I'm kind of done. So there you go. I've said my piece. Oh God, I feel better for that. Right. Let's go to the Colts. I don't like the Bucs at the moment. Although they are playing well, I do like the Colts at the moment. It's 6-5 now. They're fun to watch, especially watching Taylor rip through the Bills on Sunday, which was sodding hilarious. I love that. They're on a 3-game win streak, and they're trying to make a fist of it in the AFC South, to be fair, and they're definitely sort of playoff sort of wildcard relevant at the moment. Defensively, this matchup, I'm not going to dwell on Sunday's fantasy numbers, as the Colts offense was sort of king, and the Bills, Josh Allen, for the most part, as you said yourself, bad day at the office. I've not really got any sort of pearls of wisdom, left field pickups for the Colts this week. But I would expect this game to be a lot more competitive and the defense to be a lot busier than it was last weekend. DL DeForest Buckner is someone I've mentioned before. I still like him, 4.5 sacks on the season. But I would qualify that by saying Tom Brady is currently 32nd in the sack chart. So you don't want to be sort of relying on, as we've touched on with Trey Hendrickson, who probably is good for a sack in that game. It's, a tough matchup like this. You could still make a case for Butner, I suppose, because, he's on 46 tackles. He's only 7. Actually, he's still relevant, I suppose, because if you look at the stats, 46 tackles on the season, he's only 7 behind Leonard Williams at the Giants, who's the highest tackling DL in the league at the moment. So his tackle numbers are good. But if you're looking for a big sack play, arguably not this weekend. For the same reason, I'd I'd still start sort of linebackers, sort of Bobby Ariki or Darius Leonard. They're both in the top 20 in terms of tackles on the season. Okereke sits 8th, 93 tackles. He's having a good season. I mean, he's above the likes of players we've really sort of been big on. Dion Jones, Fred Warner, Cole Holcomb. He's above all of those at the moment. And finally, Kenny Moore. I think he's still a solid start at DB for me. Second highest sort of tackling corner in the league after Logan Wilson, 3 picks on the season, and he's already racked up over 165 points in IDP. So, I do like Kenny Moore as a sort of DB. I think it will be a competitive game. I am going with the Colts. They're on a bit of a roll, and I'm going to counter an argument from earlier, actually. The thing with me for the Bucks is, and I know I sort of said home field advantage is nonsense, but the interesting stat is that the Bucks have lost 3 games this season, and they've all been road games. So they haven't travelled well. So whether that's a factor or not, I don't know. So, but yeah, I'm siding with Indianapolis this week, mainly because I'm still bitter about the Bucks defense. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure on this game. I'm not sure on. It's a tough one to call. I mean, I think it's a great game for the neutral to watch. I think it's going to be a tough. I think it'll be a tough battle. Yeah, I probably am. I'm probably with you. I'm probably just siding on Colts on form, but I wouldn't be surprised, if just they get a bit of a Brady lesson. That's the other thing. Is just if they stop the run, then. That's the thing for me. The Colts excel when it's all about Jonathan Taylor. It makes everything just opens up. But anyway, there we go. So I'm skipping again. I've got this middle of the pack for me is just pants. Atlanta at Jacksonville. Yeah, not for me that game. Not for me. Even
not for most people watching it.
Shocker. I mean, yeah, just not.
I can't see that one being flagged up on Red Zone an awful lot on Sunday.
Probably, do you know what? Defensively, it's one of those kind of games where you go, it could go off points wise because it just could turn into, pick after pick after. It probably won't though. It'll probably be a low scoring foul. I don't know. Anyway, go on then. So yeah, I haven't really got much to say on either of those teams at this moment in time. They're both. Yeah, go on, Bren. You're skipping, aren't you?
I'm going to skip this one actually as well. Yeah, so rather surprisingly, I am going to skip the Panthers at my Dolphins. For a start, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to jinx it. We've won 3 on the bounce, and they could carry on. No, the main reason from an IDP perspective is you kind of know who to pick from these 2 teams. You don't necessarily know what you're going to get week on week. The Dolphins are starting to put a bit of a roll together, and the Panthers are a little bit the same. You just don't know. Cam's back, but the party was ruined for him on Sunday. But just stick with your tried and tested players. Jerome Baker, Jeremy Chin. You guys have been playing this long enough. You kind of know. Just stick to safe bets if you've got any Panthers or Dolphins players. So yeah, that's it. Hope we win, but I think the Dolphins could win it from the game perspective, but they just I couldn't predict either of those 2 teams at the moment.
Yeah, I've got Miami to win. They're looking half decent at this moment in time. So.
Defense is looking good. Yeah. So
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm getting feedback again. 1 second.
I've lost your audio, mate.
Try that.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. You're getting bad feedback. Can you switch on and off? Try again. See what that's like. Right. Okay. So after skipping a couple of games, I'm now going over to 2 of my top 5 defensive teams, and it's the Tennessee at New England matchup. I know you don't like the Patriots, Brendan. That's absolutely fine, but I've just got a bit of a thing for them at the moment. Defensively, they're just great. it is my game of the week from a defensive perspective, and my DB man crush that I've got on Kyle Duggar at this moment in time. I'm just following him all over the field, and
Get a room.
just playing so well. If people remember the draft last year, they picked up Kyle Duggar, and everybody went, "Who the hell is this fella?" And everybody went, "To pick him, they must know something we all don't," and they did. I think he's a great player already. He's just proven he's one of these safeties who is just. He just seems a step ahead of some other players, and yeah, for me, I really like watching him. So he's my top ad. Matt Judon at DL, Juwan Bentley at linebacker. They're playing well. The matchup is a potential belter for New England. Obviously with Tannehill's display last week, and just generally, I know the weather come into it and all that, but just I don't know. This is set up quite nicely for New England, and this for me is the stack. We're back to the old stacks again, and I love doing this.
You can do it with them, just don't do it with the Bucks. It's fine.
Don't stack them. No,
don't
stack these. Stack these. Last week, Kyle Van Noy had an absolute cracking week, and he's won. So Kyle Van Noy or Matt Judon, either of them, pick one of them and stack them with either Kyle Duggar, Anthony Phillips, or JC Jackson. All of those boys, they are in play there. They are in play in this one, and I think this is this could be where the big points are this week. That for me, that's where I'm looking. I think up front they're going to put max pressure on Tannehill. Sacks and picks, like I said, sacks and picks. They're all in play, and the Pats are my DST pick for the week as well. If you're playing in non-IDP leagues, which why would you? Right, so over to the Titans. It's still not a bad matchup from them. Harold Landry, he remains a top play every week in, week out. DB Kevin Byard again, he's playing really well. Linebacker's an interesting one. Jayon Brown is back and fit, and he is a decent ad. So what's happened is David Long come in to replace Jayon Brown early on the season and had racked up some really decent points, was quite a consistent scorer. Now he's out. He's actually questionable at this moment in time, but I don't expect him to play. They got a bye week in week 13. So, like usual, you think, wow, can we just miss this week? Jayon Brown's back. So let him have a rest. And then, it's 2 weeks rest for him. Jayon Brown is a pickup for me. You just 100% of snaps. I think it was it last week, the week before? But yeah, so interesting to see him, what he scores this week. So yeah, the obvious ones, Byard, Landry, Jayon Brown. He's probably on a lot of waivers, to be fair. So if you're struggling to find a linebacker that is going to whack you in those consistent points, and it's a good matchup for the linebackers as well, because Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris they will still run the ball heavily at New England like they always do. And so expect him to be reasonably busy. But yeah, so I'm going Pats. I'm going Pats mainly because I want to. But you just don't know with the Titans. You don't know what team's going to turn up offensively, what they're going to do. I know Derrick Henry's out, and I know that's going to affect things, but I think AJ Brown is injured. I don't know why they continually still play him. They play him and don't really. Well, they try and use him, but something's not right there. So with all that in mind, for me, this is a Pats win. So yeah, expect Titans to put 40 points on them. No, I'm joking. Go on then. So what do you reckon of that one then, Bren? You love the Pats.
I do, yeah. I can't disagree with what you say. The defense is pretty stellar at the moment, and again, like we were joking about in the intro, yeah, good luck predicting a lot of game results this season. But Nate's he's been big on Carl Duggar all season. JC Jackson is someone I highlighted a few weeks ago who's really sort of coming to the fore now. But I just don't know. I don't understand. I was looking at Tannehill's sack and pick numbers in the build up to this pod, and you go, how are they? What are they 8-3 now?
Were they not the 1 seed last week? They were either 1 seed or 2 seed in the whole lot.
Yeah, I think they were the number 1 seed. Yeah, and they're still up there in the sort of the power rankings. And you go, how are they doing that when their quarterback stats are that horrendous? It's just, but they, like you said, they just seem to find the way. And they'll be in the postseason and they'll be a factor. But for that reason, I am gonna split the difference. One, because I just can't bring myself to support the Pats. I know they're the better team at the moment. I know they're in form, but I am just going to be difficult and stubborn and just say, because the Titans do just find these random ways of getting in, and I think they will be conscious of the fact. I don't see them overtaken, but the way the Colts are playing, they are going to be looking over their shoulder, going, "Hey, come on, lads." We need a few more wins here just to sew this thing up. So, but again, any given Sunday, this could go probably be 9-6 or something.
yeah, 9-6. Not a sack or pick to be seen.
All in the fourth quarter.
No. I reckon D's defensively, that's where it is.
I think you're right. Yeah, it's definitely an IDP friendly matchup. That one could be really good fun. Okay. Right, I'm on to my final skip of the week. I didn't want to, but I am going to skip over the Eagles Giants because I think this could be a walk in the park for a kickoff. The Giants are just it was that little flash a couple of weeks ago. You thought, oh, they're getting their shit together, and then the shit they got together hit the fan again. So they're back to doing New York Giants type things. I do like the Eagles defense. I like the offense as well. I think Hurts will just Eagles win all day long. And again, you look at that. You mentioned the Eagles earlier. There's definitely, you just look at what they did last week, copy and paste it. Run the same players basically, because it'll be a bit of a cakewalk, I think, against New York. So I'm going to skip over and I'm going to go to the Rams at the Packers, if that's okay. Rams coming off the bye, so no week 11 numbers to review, and they needed the bye actually after the divisional loss and a reasonably poor performance against the Niners. The Rams are on a 2-game losing streak and have seemed a little out of sorts for a lot of people at the moment. And for that reason, I'd be a little bit inclined to wait and see how they respond this week. It's a tough road trip to Green Bay. I know they lost a tough one to the Vikings, which one of us in particular is thrilled about. It was Green Bay's offense has definitely got Rodgers and Adams sort of in sync again. Obviously, you're going to play Aaron Donald. One surprise for me, actually, if I am going to look at any Rams players, was finding their top tackler, safety Jordan Fuller, on a couple of waivers. 75 tackles on the season. He's gone over 106 fantasy points in the fantasy season so far. I think he'd be a solid addition to a lot of rosters if you are short in that sort of DB position. But yes, Von Miller's out there as well, but that's not surprising for anyone because I think very simply some people might have picked him up and just sort of stashed him on the roster, but I think the reason he's out there is an awful lot of people are waiting to see if he beds in this Rams team, and it is a Rams team that are having a little bit of a wobble at the moment. So I don't think I won't say there are things rotten in Denmark, but they don't seem quite as coherent on both sides of the ball as they were maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago for me. Moving over to Green Bay, the defense on Sunday were not as good as they had been in previous weeks. Although I haven't said that, Darnell Savage nearly had a pick that could have made a big difference in that game, but the Vikings rode their luck. And to be fair, the Vikings deserve a bit of luck given some of the close calls they've had this season. But the matchup this week, I would look at the DBs, arguably. So despite the missed pick on Sunday, Savage had a decent-ish game with 16 points. But probably, if I was picking up a DB, I'd probably lean towards Adrian Amos if you wanted to in this game, because again, his tackle numbers are so much better than Savage. So again, we come back to that. Yep, okay, Savage might get the odd pick, but Amos is likely to be the more consistent of the two. So I am leaning a bit. If I'm looking at an area for Green Bay, I'm leaning more towards the DBs in this game than the DL. Now, for a couple of reasons. As I touched on with Brady, Stafford is 29th in the sack chart, but he is in the top 10 for picks. So you're more likely to get a bit of joy on a big play this week for me in the secondary than maybe you are up front. And frankly, looking at the Packers, there's nothing for me in the DL that I really like. I know a lot of people have got Kenny Clark on their rosters. I've looked around, but look at his numbers. I mean, he's really done little or nothing in IDP since week 6 against the Bears. So I'm not looking at the D line at all. Certainly not the DLs for Green Bay this week. Linebacker wise, it's fairly easy. I mean, you've got Devondre Campbell, 95 tackles on the season, 182 fantasy points so far. But have a look at Preston Smith at linebacker. He's one that might have snuck under the radar for a lot of people, partly because he's recently back from injury. He picked up 32 points on Sunday, and also I would factor in Rashawn Gary is still listed as out with this elbow injury. Smith's readily available out there on the waivers. Keep an eye on the Gary situation, but I suspect he will still be out this week. And if that is the case, Smith then does go into this Packers game as their sack leader. Gary's got 5.5. Smith's got 5 on the season. So, he could be a pick for me that's snuck under a lot of radars. And summing the game up, I think the Packers will be angry this week. I think that they will not have enjoyed that loss at the weekend. I expect the defense, the offense was fine. I expect the defense to be better. And they'll need their special teams and Mr. Crosby to be a bit better as well. But I think the Rams are, like I said, another team a little bit out of sorts. So yeah, I'm taking the Packers in this one.
Yes. So you have screwed up. You have really screwed up the list here, Bren. But there we go, because you've just gone and skipped over your one and gone straight on to the next one without letting me go on mine.
Oh, sorry, mate.
Yeah. Jesus, think about what you've done. No, I'm joking. Anyway, it's fine. That means I've got to go virtually back to back with 2 here. Right, fine. First up, Chargers at Denver, the Broncos. Joey Bosa, he had a strong week in week 11, 17.5 points in IDP plus against the run heavy Steelers offense. And Denver will also be run heavy. I mentioned about, me keeping Joey Bosa on my bench because I've got TJ Watt starting. This is in our home league. But I do fancy Joey Bosa in this one. I think he's going to stack up some decent points in this one, and the matchup is particularly good. Talking about matchups that are particularly good, Kazir White at linebacker for the Chargers is having himself a really good back end to the season, start to the back end of the season, and he is, for me, a real good add. He is becoming, or is now, the main linebacker there, and he is exceptional in coverage. And in these kind of games, in these kind of matchups, Brendan mentioned it earlier about when they played the Steelers last week and being busy over the middle. And that's what happened with Kazir White. I mean, he is excellent in that position, and he's a must start. I expect him to score well in that one. Yeah, because again, when you look at how Denver set up, the way they'll use Javonte Williams will probably be reasonably similar to how the Pittsburgh Steelers run the ball. So, what else have I got here? Secondary. I'm going to go and talk about our DB Asante Samuel, the rookie. He scored well in week 11, and he's a good add for me, especially in dynasty leagues. But you need to check his status. He's looking questionable on week 12. The Chargers looks really good offensively in week 11. I mean, They kept scoring, and it all just sort of clicked going. But I think it's going to be a tighter, tougher slog against the Broncos, who are coming off their bye week, so have had a decent rest. For the Broncos D, Malik Reed, he had a monster week 10 before his bye week. He scored 21.50 points, and the most impressive part of that scoring is the 9 tackles for me. Yeah, also Jamont Jones up front. He scored well. Shelby Harris, Jonathan Cooper. So really up front, it just shows the pressure that the Broncos are applying on teams. And I fancy Reed to do well in this one. But apart from the guys up front, I'm not wholly betting on defensive on the rest of the Denver defense to rack up any really big points in this one. The Chargers, they're a consistent side at this moment. Well, as consistent as anybody can seem to be in 2021, even if they haven't potentially had the results. It's just the way they play. And I expect Herbert to have a decent game and get the job done against this game. It's not going to be very easy for them, but I think they will win it. I think it'd be a good game to watch from the avid fan. If you want to see some good defensive, offensive matchups, I think this one's going to be a tight one, and it'll be a good one to watch to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, tough call. I'd side as I think you're doing, just with the Chargers. Herbert seems to sort of be firing again. Eckler's looking good again. So yeah, I'll go with the Chargers.
Go on then. So, you've done the Rams at Green Bay already. So I'm now.
Sorry, it's got a snake back to you. We're doing it draft style.
I'm on the turn. Minnesota, the Vikings.
I'll keep that to
yourself. Yeah, Jesus, why not? I've had a killer week, so why not? Sorry. The Vikings at the 49ers. Yeah, we're looking good. The Vikings, we have been all season, really. It's been crazy if you look back at the games that we've lost by the final kick or fucking whatever. This bloody final kick, Lark. I mean, geez, it's just no good. I don't think they're trying to kill off their fan base with heart attacks or whatever. This is just I
think they're trying to kill Zimmer off with a heart attack.
Well, yeah,
press
maybe.
Conference was brilliant. He's just like, did you hear it? Sundays just aren't any fun. Yeah.
No,
he said, whoever said Sunday's fun day is, he said they want to come and do my job. He's loving life at the moment.
It's just crazy. But I mean, look at it. The thing is, I'm not defensively at this moment in time. I'm not that impressed with us. We're okay, but we're not particularly great. It's just we are electric offensively and lights out. Kirk and JJ, that link up is just, it was like a basketball game a little bit last week. It was just like, right, just get let them score, get the offense back on the field. We'll score again, and then we'll see if we can run this clock out. But defensive wise, talking about the players, like I said, I'm not overly impressed with us. Obviously, I think it's just the stability side of things. Apart from Kendricks, he has been a consistent scorer all the way through this season. And he is an elite fantasy linebacker now for me. He's in the top 5, just on that consistent tackle number, really, more than anything. And the fact that he's the main man there. They look at him like he's king of the defense. And that allows him to be used pass rush. He's even trying to pick all the time as well. So I mean, he's just having that kind of season where he's lights out. So talking about consistency, alongside him, obviously we had Nick Vigil earlier on in the season because Anthony Barr was out, but Anthony Barr's back. He's scoring well at linebacker. He's definitely somebody who can be plugged into lineups because his tackle numbers are really pretty good. But Harrison Smith is back as the primary safety, so Joe Byron, the young rookie, he can be put to one side now. But yeah, apart from those players, so Kendricks, really, Anthony Barr, if you want to plug, I don't see this being a massive scoring game defensively. And I've got it beaten tight. Why not? Fuck it. Yeah, it's going to be tight. Of course it is. Yeah. From the 49ers side of things, defensively, usual suspects for me. Don't think that the 49ers are a place to go and just randomly pick somebody up and try and plug them in, because they could score a big 0. That's the kind of things that go on there. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, obviously, they must start players. The one player I would at DB is Juan Williams. I mentioned him before. He's playing well. He's got decent tackle numbers, which is good. Sort of like covers the slot. He's bound to be busy against the Vikings. So I would say his tackle floor numbers are going to be pretty solid. If I had to pick somebody apart from Bosa or Warner from the 49ers, like I said, I've got the Vikings to win, but it'll probably be on the last kick, or we'll hit the post or something, and then we won't win. But we'll see. What do you reckon, Bram?
One of them to win in overtime.
Yeah. Why not? Okay.
No, the Vikings are fun on offense. Well, the Vikings have been fun all season as a neutral. I mean,
Great.
There hasn't been a dull game. Niners, I think both teams are sort of pretty entertaining to watch on the offensive side of it at the moment. But I think the Vikings will be carrying in. You know, they needed that win on Sunday, and the way they won it, I think, will be key as well. So to do the Packers and to do it in the manner they did, I'd like to see the Vikings win this one and just.
Yeah, I didn't mention. So going back to Kendricks and Barr, I do think that their numbers would be big this week. I do think they will be at linebacker, because it just the way that San Francisco will sort of set up. I think Elijah Mitchell's back. Yeah, I think they're gonna. I think they'll pound them right. They will, and then Debo, loving Debo this year. What a player he is! What a player!
Yeah, well, he's a bit of a Swiss Army knife in the last. Well, he's needed to be, but yeah, if they've got Mitchell back, then he probably reverts back to a more sort of standard role. But it should be fun. Okay, right. Where am I going next?
Cleveland at Baltimore. That's what I got you asked.
I just thought I'd check before I get in more trouble. Right. I don't want to get told off anymore, folks. He hates it when the routine goes out the window. Yeah. I've known him too long. Right. Yeah. Where was I going? Yeah, Browns and Ravens. So both teams won close Week 11 matchups. That's kind of where the similarity ends. The Browns ground out a 13-10 win over the Lions. That's not going to live long in the memory. It was a bit of dirge, frankly. And to be honest, there really wasn't a lot to shout about sort of IDP-wise from the Browns. Malcolm Smith, Denzel Ward had a pick each, but even then, Smith was top scorer with just 14.5 points. But, come on. I mean, it's Detroit in Week 11. They're still without a win. They've got Tim Boyle at quarterback. I mean, a decent defense goes out there and has a field day for me. Yes, you could argue it's one of those games where, the Browns are almost, as poor as they were, they're kind of relying on the Lions being far worse. At the moment, with the exception of sack leader Myles Garrett and arguably linebacker Anthony Walker, who scored well since Week 6, leads the Browns in tackles with 73. I'd swerve the Browns D at the moment. They've got good defensive players, and I'm sure Stefanski and his staff are going to look at the job that Miami's defense did the other week against the Ravens and try and replicate it. I mean, the performance by Miami in that game, it was a ballsy, aggressive game plan on the defense from Flores, and it was a defense that seemed all on the same page. Everyone knew what they were doing. I think the Browns defense, as I've said, they've got the players to do it, but I'm not sure they've got a performance like that in them at the moment. They seem to be lacking an identity, lack of coherence. I mean, they could prove me wrong. I mean, and of course, but I would, outside of the two players I've mentioned, a bit like the Rams, I'd be playing safe. I wouldn't be rolling the dice on any other Browns IDP personnel at the moment. Not for me. Going over to the Ravens, okay, so if the Browns are bad, I suppose you could argue, why did I pick this game as one of the 5 highlights? like we've touched on time and time again, you've got to look at the matchups. And, now the Ravens also won a close game, but unlike the Browns, they did it against a half-decent Bears defense, all right, minus Khalil Mack, I know. But they did it without their all-star quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Now, the Ravens should have Jackson back from illness, whereas the issue with the Browns is exactly, ironically, they're starting QB. I mean, Baker Mayfield is clearly playing injured. I think most people would be agreed on that. And he looked like a bit of a train wreck, to be honest, against the Lions. I mean, he threw 2 bad picks, 15 out of 29 pass completions. And that is primarily why I've picked up this one as a matchup I like on the Ravens side. Previously, I have been a little quick to dismiss the defense as just doing enough. I've said it before, a defense that does enough to get Lamar back on the field. I still think it's a fairly accurate assessment, but against this offensive Brown mess, probably shouldn't term it that. It doesn't sound too good, does it? Actually, Brown's offensive mess. Okay. Sounds better. I think there are definitely IDP points to be had for the Ravens. So we've talked again. We've mentioned Patrick Queen at linebacker underperforming, but to be fair, he's picked up 33 points in the last 2 weeks. He does lead the defense at the moment with 54 tackles, and I think that for me is why, with the way the offense is playing, I would look at Patrick Queen starting this week. One to pick up on the other side of Queen is Tyus Bowser. He seems to be someone that gets mentioned quite a bit at the moment. It's not necessarily an LB I'd be looking to start every week, but again, he's going up against an injured QB off the back of 26 points against the Bears, including 2 sacks, 2 QB hits, forced fumble. So he had a good game last weekend. And also, to be honest, given the way Baker's playing, I'd make a very strong case. I think if you've got him, I would be starting him in the secondary, Marlon Humphrey. I think obviously what the Browns are going to do is they're going to lean on Chubb in the ground game. So the Ravens are going to come straight out of the gate and go, right, we've got to stop that. And if they can do that and force Baker to the air, then of course, the DBs and Humphrey are going to come into play. Bear in mind, the Ravens are the second best run defense in the league at the moment. They're only giving up an average of just over 88 yards per game. So, them and the Saints, outside of the Saints, the Ravens are probably the best equipped team to put the shackles on this Cleveland ground game. So I think, the linebackers definitely are in play. The DBs will be in play because I think the Ravens do have the weapons to force Baker to start airing it out earlier than he might like in this game. And again, going back to the DBs very quickly, if you are looking for an outside pick and you are short at that position in the secondary this week, just have a look at Chris Westrey. He's recently back from IR. Again, like I touched on with the Packers, player there that might just sneak under the radar because he has been out with an injury, but also Anthony Averett is still listed as being out with this thigh injury. So again, Chris Westrey, again, if you are a bit short in a bigger league, he's out there on waivers. And I think the way the Browns offense are performing, and I think the pressure the Ravens will put on the ground game, he could be, he's certainly worth a gamble this week, I think, if you are short. Summing the game up as a whole, Lamar's back, Ravens win, and I think all the value IDP-wise is with the Ravens this week. The Browns, I think they're just a bit all over the shop at the moment. So
Baker's head's gone for me. I don't know quite what's going on there at this moment in time, but he's not a happy bunny. And the last place, or one of the last places that you're probably going to want to go after that, after the poor showing against the Lions, is going to Baltimore. Poor fella. But I'm going all in on Ravens on that. So Monday night, Seattle at Washington. Right, you had a rant earlier on Tampa, and obviously
I know where this is going. Go on.
Home league wise, my QB is Russell effing Wilson, and geez, come on, Russ, come on, let Russ cook. What was that all about? Because whatever's happening in this, I know he's had his finger issue or whatever, but geez, he's a pain in the ass fantasy-wise, and at the moment, he is a dream for opposing pass rush because he just takes the sacks, wanders back 10 yards, 15, 20 yards, and just takes it and lies on the floor because he's got that kind of confidence in himself that he can make that up on the next play. However, that isn't happening. So it's just like negative yardage. At one point, he was minus God knows whatever points. So I was like, oh, this is just killer watching him. Anyway, so he is, like I said, that matchup. The matchup last week against Cardinals was not great for him anyway. He was awful. So was their O-line. And I fancy Washington to feast from that point of view. So Seattle, they're struggling to run the ball also at this moment in time because they've got no Chris Carson and they seem to be beaten up. And they don't seem to know who's next in line. It was a bit of a sharp penny. It was just a bit, again, it's all a little bit of a mess with Seattle. But Washington are terrible against the pass. So now I'm saying if Washington can get pressure on Russ, and they can hold up some decent coverage, the game is theirs for the taking for Washington. But with all that in mind, I'm going for a Seattle win, and I'm going from Russ to absolutely bounce back. And I'm expecting, I don't know why. I just think, look, something's going to click, or this Carroll, the Pete Carroll thing with him and Russ, who's running the offense and all this, every time it gets to this point, suddenly they do pass it back to Russ and say, look, let's let Russ cook again. The passes come out, bang, 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 monster week for Russ, 35, 40 points in fantasy, and everybody goes, hello, there he is again. So this could be the one. And Washington's secondary is shite. And they could burn that with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, if it comes to it. But, so yeah, it's an inconsistent season, so let's go for it. I'm going Seattle when you're thinking, hang on, Seattle playing badly. They're going to Washington. This is not where they want to go. Well, maybe it's not as bad as that. So IDP wise, let's talk that because that's what this is about. So tackle numbers will be high for the linebackers, Brooks and Wagner, like usual. But for me, yeah, I would look at the pass rush from Washington, and do you know what? Most of these guys, they're all going to be on the waivers this week. So if you need to plug it, maybe go there because there's no Montez Sweat, there's no Chase Young. So I mean, thank God for Russ side of things. So Jonathan Allen maybe at DT, he's had some monster weeks earlier on in the season, and he could have one here. If you wanted to stack it, maybe stack it with Cameron Curl. If it doesn't go well for Russ, there's potentially big points to be had. But like I said, Russ loves to stay in the pocket. He'll take the sacks, which could give you the points. So yeah, I'd go Jonathan Allen or any of the edge rushers that are filling in. But I'm going to go Seahawks win just to add to the weirdness that is 2021, like I said. So yeah, there you go. What do you reckon on that, Bren? You got a...
I don't know this one. I mean, I was listening to, I heard some sound bites from an interview Carroll did after the weekend, and he's
with the Lockett stuff. Did you see that?
He just sounded so. I mean, he said it. He actually came out and said, "Well, I'm obviously not very good at this."
Yeah, Tyler Lockett said that. He said, "Oh yeah, well we weren't expecting how they played," and you go, "What?
You've had a week to look at game tapes."
Yeah, well, we're watching the tape and they didn't do that, and you go, "Oh, okay." Don't admit it. I mean,
yeah, I know, but it's not like Tyler's rocking up on the Sunday. Go, morning lads. Who is it today? So yeah,
I'll blame the tape.
I don't know. It is, yeah. Well, the game tape lied clearly. So
yeah,
we were over there and they were over there last week. So I don't know with this. I like Washington. I like Heineke. I like the way he does things. I think Russ could come out and sort of rip that secondary new one, as you've said. And I think if that front seven of Washington wasn't quite as banged up, if they weren't missing some key players, yeah, I could see Russ having a few more naps than he would like. But I don't know. Yeah, let's go with Seattle. It's you've highlighted the IDP value. I would agree.
I'm starting him against you in the home league. Here you go, you watch 5 points.
Yeah. So Nate's been sort of trying to offload when he was angry earlier in the week, and he's been trying to get rid of him all week, trying to nick Jalen Hurts from me.
Yeah.
So watch this. So we can make a prediction now. Russ will go for 30 plus points, and Jalen Hurts will have a mare.
Yeah, I'll be like, thanks.
So I might gamble and start Tua. Leave Hurts on the bench because I've turned down 2 trades this week. It will just come back and bite me in the ass. So I'm going to play safe. But so yeah, all good fun as with most of the games at the moment.
Right. So, well, that's it. That's us done, really. So right, what am I doing? I'm off to stuff my Thanksgiving turkey. Don't know what that means. I just wrote it down. Silly. Anyway, right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. And remember, keep rushing.